Welcome back, everybody. It's just me, and James will be joining me momentarily. Tim is off today, so we got a lot to talk about, though. We're just looking and kind of commenting. It's been exactly 24 hours, almost to the exact minute, like plus 4 minutes, I think, from when Artemis II launched yesterday at this exact time. This is a live view of it's not a live camera. It's a live animation of where it is. Now, you're probably saying this is not real. This is an animation of the telemetry and all of the data coming in. And look down at the bottom. You can see mission elapsed time. 1 day, 0 hours, and 5 minutes right now. Also notice the velocity. It's slowing down a little bit. Now it's starting to speed up again. But the miles to the distance of the Earth getting closer. So what's happening is the Orion capsule is actually slingshotting. It's coming back around. And believe it or not that I think everyone's going to get a chance to see it, but coming up here right before 8 p.m. Now, sunset tonight, I'm looking at my watch, is 7:45. It looks like about 8, maybe 7:55, 7:59. I think the burn is, 7:49?
The burn is 7:49 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Right around that time, believe it or not, it's going to be crossing over the southern U.S., and so you could see that path here. I'm actually going to bring up from Heavens Above. It's a great site if you've never used it before. They have a ground track map, and so that's what it looks like. And those times, if you're not used to military time, that's 7:55 and 20 time is 8 p.m. So it's basically that time when it's going to be burning. And that circle is the visibility circle. Now, for Charlotte, you see us centered. I always highlight Charlotte because that's where we're coming from right now. It's only 26 degrees above the southern horizon, so it's super low. But with it being shortly after sunset, there's a better than, I would say, 50-50 chance you could see this go by. But I'm kind of curious, James, with that burn happening right about that time, that's a 6-minute burn. It's actually a little less, like 5 minutes.
Something like that, yeah.
And some seconds. It's going to be hauling. So this is called, and I'll actually highlight it on the map. It's supposed to happen right about there, roughly in comparison. So I'll tilt the Earth because it should be happening pretty close to us. It's called the TLI. And so if you're not familiar, we love acronyms in weather. They love acronyms in space too, and NASA. That stands for the translunar ejection. All right. Which is basically the burn that puts it into the path all the way out to the moon. What's really cool about this, and this is the one cool thing about space, you think about, in space, you probably learned in some science class that, one of these laws of motion, that an object in motion stays in motion until acted upon by an external force. Well, on Earth, we've got gravity, we've got friction, we've got all these things that slow us down. So when you're in your car and you accelerate to like 35 miles an hour and you let off the gas, you're eventually going to slow down. You coast for a while. But in space, when they do that 6-minute burn roughly, they'll get up to some velocity. And once they cut the engine off, they will stay at that velocity until something stops them. And in this case, it's going to be another burn to slow them down. So that's why fuel is so important in space. You use fuel to get going, but there's no air brakes or brakes in general. The brakes are using another opposite burn or exhaust to slow yourself down. So they will go into motion there, and I can't remember the speed. I want to say it's like ridiculous, like it's 50,000 miles an hour. It might be close to that.
I'm checking right.
But that speed that'll occur over 4 days. And it'll take them all the way out to the moon, and you can see that path out there. And the next,
it's 6,000 pounds of thrust.
Okay.
And it will accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds.
Wow. So that would be a fast car. Yeah. So they will, in that burn, they'll perform several burns to ensure the spacecraft correct trajectory. So after this burn tonight, anything they do is going to be maneuvering burns. Basically, hey, we're out of position. We got to shift a little bit. And what's crazy, because space, there's no friction, there's no gravity or anything. These are just little jets. They just enough to push you, and that's one thing you have seen in some science fiction movies. What is it, The Martian, where he cuts his glove, and he lets the air come out, and that's all he uses for it. That sometimes is all you need, but it's also what's scary about space. When those guys do spacewalks and they start floating off in one direction, there's nothing to stop them. Okay, they go in that direction forever, and the spacecraft do the same thing. So this will be pretty cool tonight to see this happen as it goes. And this will be the service module, which is on the back side. This is where the solar panels are, and you can actually look at it. So this is the other cool thing about this site. By the way, this is all on NASA's website. you can go and interact with this. So we zoom in on this, and this is what the Artemis II looks like right now. So the crew capsule's on the top part, and this is the service module down here. This is their engine. You can see there's also some smaller engines on there. And then the solar panels, obviously, they're facing the sun. That image we got this morning, James, of the crescent Earth,
Yeah.
that looked like it was taken from the end of one of these solar arrays looking back towards the engine. And
Just before we came on the show,
Yeah.
I was listening to communications between Houston and the crew, and they were actually manually flying and manually moving some of those around. And I heard them ask, hey, Houston, are you able to tell that we're kind of moving things around right now? And they said exactly what you just said, Brad. Yeah, the camera's out there on that arm.
That's the view.
Yeah, so every time you move it, we kind
Yeah.
of see it dancing a little bit.
So if you look in the right-hand corner, it's like kind of under our thing, but you see you can actually click on all the cameras. They have a camera on the front, and then each one of the solar arrays has a little camera at the end, and you can look at the views that they have. So I'm going to try to recreate that view. That was a view. I think it was this view right here, and it was looking back. And then they have a camera on the front that shows you kind of like that view there. So
Brad, is this the view from earlier? This
Yes.
is tape playback.
Yep. So that's the view, and you can see all the engines. And remember, this serves a multi-purpose. It's so they can kind of check the engines in the back of the service module, make sure everything's okay. And those solar panels are actually helping to power a lot of everything on board right now. And you notice they're facing the sun. And the great thing about where they are, they can face the sun the entire time. There's no, there's no sunset or sunrises out there as they get away. Now, I was listening to one of Brittany's interviews today, and they're talking about some of the cool things they're going to see. They're going to see some eclipse, basically, because when they go behind the other side of the moon, they'll actually get some eclipsing action there, which I think is going to be cool.
The eclipse was one of the things that, depending on when they launched,
Yeah.
which we now know was 24 hours ago, about 6:35 on Wednesday, but depending on which one of those days they launched on, the eclipse timing was going to change.
Yeah.
I also heard them yesterday in a news conference ask, are you planning for a new Earthrise photo?
Oh,
And
yeah.
the answer was, we're trying, because just like you're showing here, they have to do all of the math on exactly where Orion will be and the best
Yeah.
timing to get that Earthrise photo.
So this is the whole path. I'll widen this out a little bit. And what I think is really cool about this, and this is what I love about this interactivity. So you see there's the whole orbit and path of the Orion capsule and the service module going out all the way around the moon. But the moon's not there yet. That line is the orbit. The moon's over there. So this is actually, the moon is moving. Obviously, it's orbiting around our planet. It's our biggest satellite. And so these are like it's like that word problem, James, you had in school. Two trains are traveling.
Except for we don't want these to collide.
Yeah. And so you got to do the math right to figure out when that's the key. They don't want to collide. They want to get into an orbit. And just like they're doing this slingshot thing, and this is not a Ricky Bobby reference, from Talladega Nights, they're using the Earth's gravity to help propel them. That's why they're getting so close. They need to do this burn to escape our gravity, but that gravity will help kind of slingshot them. And then on the other side, they're barely going to use any fuel. They're going to use the gravity of the moon to help slingshot them back towards the Earth. And believe it or not, only thing they're going to use for fuel on the way back is adjustments. They're not going to use anything to propel them. The gravity and the force of going around the moon will propel them. I believe this is the technique that they use in Apollo 13, if you've seen the movie. Mm-hmm. They had to do this maneuver, right, to save the astronauts.
Right, because they had no power.
They had no power, so they basically used the gravity of the moon to do this slingshot thing. And that was scary back then. They didn't have nearly the technology or the computing power to. They couldn't use ChatGPT to figure this out if it was going to work, right?
Did you hear the conversations today on the communications between the astronauts and Houston to troubleshoot things that you and I every day have to troubleshoot, like Microsoft Outlook wasn't working?
They're probably like, Outlook, yeah. They're worried about, we got life support systems and toilets we got to fix,
But meanwhile, they're still calling IT going, could you remote into my computer? And
I can't get into my email. It's like, what's my password? So it's good to know the astronauts have the same problems we do. But what's really cool, James, is that, all this stuff, the science stuff is really cool, but I think it's really fascinating to me, too, is you've got backups, right? Down at Houston and down at Kennedy, you've got mock-ups of all this stuff. So if there's a problem up there, they can have the astronauts, the backup astronauts, which have trained just like these astronauts. They can kind of go into like a simulator and kind of work these problems out on the ground with mock-ups of the Orion capsule and stuff. And so they don't have to do it up there. They have people helping them to figure these things out. And so I think that's the cool thing about seeing how NASA works and how they solve problems. And if there's one thing from the movies that I think is true, if you've watched The Martian, it's one of my favorite movies. Matt Damon plays a great role, but he's stuck on Mars, right? What's he say? We got to science the bleep out of this.
Yep.
That's kind of what all astronauts are taught to do. Like, they don't panic, they don't freak out. They go, let's just do the science. Let's figure this out. Solve one problem at a time. And this is like a great life lesson. It's like, there's big things that happen to you. They just take small chunks and let's solve this problem, move on to this problem, and move on to the next one. And that's the way all of NASA works organizationally, from Kennedy to Houston to up there. And so anytime you see these problems pop up, I think down here we get way more nervous than they do, James, because I think they're used to this. This is what they train for. And so they go, hey, we've got 3 or 4 people working on it. Some problems are bigger than others. I would argue the toilet problem, not life-threatening, but that was probably a big deal.
Well, I was thinking about it, right? So the toilet that
Yeah.
is in the Orion space capsule made some headlines overnight because it malfunctioned. They
Yeah.
got it resolved.
A light came on.
A flashing error light
Yeah.
came on.
Which is weird in and of itself. Like, if your toilet
That
had
your
a flashing
toilet's
error
flashing
light,
error?
like, Mom,
Yeah.
my toilet's flashing. I could just hear my kids yelling down.
Have you
What?
tried unplugging it and plugging
Yes.
it back in?
I'm like, we don't have lights on our toilet.
But the toilet makes huge improvements over what they had during
Yeah.
the Apollo era. You mentioned the Apollo 13 movie,
Yep.
and that is briefly mentioned in that movie, right? The kind of inconvenience,
They use bags.
non-private, right? They
Yes.
use bags to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
and this is supposed to alleviate that. It's supposed to have some privacy and
Yeah.
some more home conveniences, if you will, and
For sanitation rise, it's a big deal, right?
I would think so. And I was thinking about what you were saying about backups. I'm going, I don't know this for a fact, but I bet you they brought the bags.
That's what I'm getting. That's why I said it's not. It was
Yeah.
probably more inconvenience, because they probably do have backup bags, just like they did in the Apollo missions.
The live shot from Orion just came back.
Okay.
So here are some of those panels you were just talking about.
Oh, that's cool. And so there's actual lights, which is interesting. I didn't think there
right.
would actually be physical lights on there.
Is there any chance that that's solar reflection, or is that
That
you
looks
think
like a light
artificial
to me,
lights?
doesn't it?
The way it's kind of like it's got like center of
That's-
orientation there.
Oh,
yeah.
you're right, though. It could be reflecting because the sun would be off to the right. So yeah, it's oftentimes when people tell me that when we see the space station or other satellites, they go, "Oh, there's that light." There's really no lights on any of these things. It's just reflections from
down.
the sun, and
Like
usually
when the space train goes by with
Yeah.
the SpaceX satellites.
that's why they're so visible, like
Yeah.
near sunrise and sunset, because you get that great reflection. If you've ever had your watch or
But I
something.
mean, these might be lights. Those are quite
Yeah, I'm
bright in spots.
I'm wondering if they have lights just to like inspect the engine parts and stuff back there. And obviously they have solar panels, so they have a ton of local power now. That's why I said that the power is, being generated by power on board from batteries, usually recharged by the solar panels, and the solar panels provide quite a bit of power. What's interesting, I'm watching the telemetry, and the speed is picking up, James, but the distance to the Earth is getting shorter. So look out on the bottom. So the speed, we're now up to 12,000 miles per hour, but only 8,700 and decreasing. So this is going to, if you look at the path, it looks like it gets really close. This is the closest the orbit, the slingshot is. And the reason is that they want to get as much gravity to slingshot them back up there. It's crazy to think, because this is why they're accelerating right now. It's not because of an engine burn. It's the gravity of the Earth actually pulling them in this direction. So when they get close enough, they'll then fire the engines, which will take that forward momentum created by the gravity. It'll add force or thrust, and it'll project them on this translunar ejection, which is sounds
animation
pretty cool.
of what we anticipate in about an hour.
So that's pretty cool.
What's crazy, and I don't mean to oversimplify this,
Okay.
but Brad, it's been 50 years
Yeah.
since anyone has done this.
Yeah, and that's what we mentioned earlier today. Social media is not always the greatest place to go talk about stuff like this, because you get I love it because you get people fascinated, but you get a lot of people naysayers who don't understand stuff, and people are really confused, like, oh, they thought this was the mission landing, right?
I understand the confusion.
Yeah, no, this is not a landing on the moon mission. Just like the Apollo missions, they had to test. They ran several missions long before they landed, right? And this isn't the Apollo mission. This is all brand new equipment, right? Brand new rocket, brand new module. They got to test everything, right? Everything's got to be tested. Like, I certainly would not just be the first time person to say, hey, let's try this. My life and limb and everything is on the line. Let's try this thing for the first time. No, they got to test everything. So they got to test through this stuff. But the historic nature of this is what James just alluded to. Nobody has been this far from the Earth already. That high elliptical orbit they had this morning, that was the farthest anyone had been since Apollo, so 53 years. Tonight into tomorrow, they'll be on this long path. That's the first time anyone's been that far away from the Earth since 1972. And then coming up in 4 days from now, when they make the pass on the other side of the moon, that will be the first time ever, not like on record, like ever, that a human has been that far from planet Earth. And so to me, that is the historic nature of this, because when they go to the other side of the moon, they're going to be 8,000 miles on the dark side of the moon. None of the Apollo missions ever went that far. They were staying closer to the planet in kind of a low moon orbit, if you will. They were much closer, so they never went that far, which will give them a unique perspective. James alluded to this. Will we see a cool moonrise over the lunar surface as they make that orbit around?
Moonrise or Earthrise?
Earthrise, yeah. Earthrise from the moon, which will be really cool. Instead of the sun or the moon coming above the horizon, it'll be planet Earth. And so to me, I think that will be the most life-changing moment for the astronauts to see that, because that's a view that, I mean, some of the Apollo astronauts got to see that, but they never got to see it from that far away. This will be by far the farthest we've been. And for them, it kind of blows your mind, James, to think about this. They're going to be out there. They're going to see this. First of all, I'm like, even going to Kennedy, I'm in awe. Like, I have, like, every time I go down there, it just like comes over you, the tingling, just this feeling of pride and everything. But for them, they've got to know, like, I am the first human to ever witness what I'm seeing right now.
And this is the Earthrise photo from Apollo 8 that they might try to recreate on this mission.
But you see how close they are to the moon. Like, look, the surface is right there. To me, this image will be more impressive in 4 days, because the moon will be even farther away from them, and they might see the whole lunar disk with the Earth coming over the horizon. So super exciting stuff. This will be stuff we'll be following here on WCNC Plus, so stick around. If you want to follow some of these websites we're going to, they're all on the NASA page right now. This is called the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, so if you want to Google that, you can play around with this. It's a great tool. The kids can just eat this up, and you can kind of monitor in real time. And remember, coming up around 7:50, you might be able to see Artemis to our south, 26 degrees above the horizon. I know I'll be out there with my kids. See you tomorrow.